Greetings, everybody. I trust that you guys are good. Let's quickly have a look at the Google chart. And as you guys can see, I am on the monthly chart. And on the monthly chart, we can see that we had this head and shoulders pattern, as you guys can see, which had a neckline at that point, more or less, right? And just remember that necklines are an area and not so much a line. So we saw price breaking to the bottom side of that neckline and then heading back to the neckline to test it. And at this point, we would have looked for potential selling opportunities, as we expect price to move further down, at least to the next support level. And at this point in time, I would say the next support level is around about this level over here. And should price break the last support level, what I would do is wait for the market to head back to the level again to test it. And at this point, I would potentially look for possible selling opportunities once more, right? Anyway, what I'm gonna do in regards to the monthly chart is add a neckline to that head and shoulders pattern. Just bear with me, guys, while I add my neckline. We could say that more or less this is our neckline, and as I've said, guys, necklines are an area and not so much an actual line, right? So we can safely say that more or less this is our neckline, right? And if I were to utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool just to see if that neckline aligns with any of the key numbers that we have on the tool, let's have a look. Just bear with me. Fibonacci retracement tool. Here we go, right? And let's see, right? And we can see that the neckline of this head and shoulders pattern aligns with the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement level, or we could say the 50% Fibonacci retracement level. It doesn't really matter. Price retrace to where those two numbers are, right? And that's confluence in as far as looking for possible selling opportunities goes at this point over here, right? Anyway, let's proceed. I'm just going to delete this Fibonacci tool, and let's continue. So what else do we see in regards to the monthly chart of Google? Another thing that is also very much important that I'd like to mark is that current support line or support area, which is over here more or less, right? Let's see. So there goes our support area, right, more or less, right? So another thing that is also very much interesting, if I can just zoom in, is the fact that we have this candlestick over here. It is a liquidity candlestick, and it is a bearish candlestick with a small body with a very long lower wick, which tells us, as I said, that we have a lot of liquidity at that point. Hence we saw all of these candlesticks coming down to that level to trigger the liquidity that's sitting at that point, right? So what may possibly happen next is, as much as we are to some degree expecting price to move further down, is that price may potentially move further up to around this level once again. Why do I say so? That is because if you have a look, price is currently at a very strong level of support, and as I've said, the liquidity that is sitting at this point has been triggered by the market, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So from here, what I'm going to do is head down to the weekly chart. However, before I do so, I would just also like to point out that at this level over here, we have a gap that needs to be triggered by the market. So there is plenty of scope for price to move further down. However, as I've said, we are currently at a very strong level of resistance, or rather support, and what may happen is price may push back to this level of resistance and then only possibly push further down to this level to trigger that liquidity that's at this level, and then we might potentially see it push slightly up again, right? But as I've said, guys, based on the fact that we have this pattern over here, which is a head and shoulders pattern, it would make sense for price to move further down to at least this level, which is lower than where we have that gap, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So from here, what I'm going to do is head down to the weekly chart. So here we are on the weekly chart. Let's have a look. So in regards to the weekly chart, what do we see that we should be paying attention to? On the weekly chart, we can see that we had this very nice overextended M structure, which has a neckline at that point, right? We can see that the neckline hasn't really been broken sufficiently, but what I would love to see happen next is for price to break the neckline sufficiently and then head back to the neckline, and at this point then we would look for potential selling opportunities. And can you guys see that we actually have two structures at this level? We have this support area that we spoke about on the monthly chart, and the very same area is also a or rather is the neckline of this M structure. So should price break sufficiently to the downwards or to the downside, this would be an extremely strong area. So should price head back to this level again, we would, as I've said, indeed look for potential selling opportunities, right? And based on the weekly chart, I would say that our first take profit should at least be this level over here. Just bear with me, guys. It should at least be this level over here, right? Because as you can see, guys, it's a very strong level of support, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So what I'm gonna do now is actually add a neckline for this overextended M structure as well, because it is very much important. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make the neckline a different color so that it stands out from that current structure that we have on that or rather in that area. Just bear with me, guys. Let's see. My neckline, okay, there we go. Just gonna make a different color. I'll make it an orange. Okay, and there we go, more or less, right? As I've said, guys, the neckline of this M structure has been broken. However, it is not sufficiently broken. If you guys can actually have a look, right? I would love to see it push slightly more down and then head back to the neckline, right? And as I've said, at this point we will then look for potential shorting opportunities, right? So let's proceed. So what else, guys, do we see in regards to the weekly chart of Google? Another thing that I can see, which is also very much interesting, is the fact that we have at this level a gap, right, which tells us that there is scope for the market to push further up. And as I've said, currently we are at a very strong level of support, and as much as we have this M structure and the neckline has been broken to the bottom side, because we are at this very strong level of support, price may potentially push further up to trigger that liquidity. Similarly, we also have this area over here. It is also a very strong level of or rather it is a liquidity area, and the market needs to grab that liquidity at some point or another. To add to that, we also had this M structure at this point, which also has a neckline at this point, right? So should price push further up, let me just clear the board actually. So I said we have this M structure which has a neckline at that point, and that neckline is also the neckline of that huge head and shoulders pattern that I spoke about on the monthly chart. So should price head back to this level, at this point again we will most likely look for potential selling opportunities, and that is because this is a very strong area, right? Having said that, just keep in the back of your mind that we have this gap over there, and gaps represent liquidity which need to be triggered by the market, because gaps are money at the end of the day, right? So here we are on the weekly chart, as I've said. And so what else do we see, guys? What else do we see on this chart that we should be paying attention to? I don't see anything further at this point. What I will do is head down to the daily chart. Let's see on the daily chart. Here we are. What do we see on the daily chart, guys, that we should be looking at or paying attention to? Remember, guys, on the weekly chart I spoke about how we have this M structure over here, right? Can you guys see that on the daily chart we have this entire area over here? We have this area over here which seems to be, you know, moving sideways. And to add to that, guys, as much as we have this M structure, I don't know if you guys can see that we have, or rather we had this structure, which seems to be a W structure, right? So anything can happen in this region. Anything can happen in this region. As I've said, guys, we just need to ensure that we have a 360-degree view of the market, and we react based on what the market does, and we don't predict so much, right? I hope what I'm saying is not contradictory, and I hope it makes sense, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So in regards to the daily chart, I'm just going to add my channel. Let's see, how would I add my channel in regards to the daily chart? Let's see. In fact, I'm going to add one in this manner. Just bear with me, guys. Let's see. Let's see. All right, there we go, guys. Many of you will say that this particular trend line, or rather this particular channel, is somewhat outdated, and I would say not necessarily, and that is because guys, remember I said we have this M structure over here. Just bear with me. Remember I said we have this M structure over here, and I spoke about the neckline being at that level and the fact that the neckline has been broken. So I'm drawing this channel in this manner because I wanted to show you that the channel as well has been broken, as we had multiple touches on the channel. As you guys can see, let me just redraw that, sorry. We had multiple touches at that point, and on the fourth occasion price broke that neckline, right, or rather that channel. So that's confluence as well, because number one, we have that M structure that we spoke about. Number two, we have this level, which is the neckline of that M structure. Number three, we have this channel also being broken to the bottom side, which adds as confluence in the sense that we need to be looking for potential selling opportunities. However, having said all that, guys, just bear in mind that this entire level over here is a very strong level of support, as we've had multiple touches on that area, and as much as we're looking for potential selling opportunities, what may actually happen at this point in time is that we might see the market push further up, at least to this level to close that gap, and possibly in the future to this level to close that gap. Can you guys also see that we have another third gap at this point, which also needs to be triggered by the market? So as much as we're looking for potential selling opportunities, there is scope for the market to push further up to close all of those gaps, as you guys can see, right? But as I've said, on the weekly chart, I would love to see price push further down and then head back up to test the zone, right? Because the neckline has been broken, but not sufficiently, in my humble opinion. Anyway, let's proceed. From here, what I'm going to do is head down to the H4 chart, and on the H4 chart we'll see if we can find any opportunities in as far as buying or selling goes, right? Just bear with me, guys, while I fix my channel. There we go, right? So here we are on the H4 chart. On the H4 chart, guys, I don't know if you guys can see, but on the H4 chart we had another M structure at this point, which also has a neckline at this point, right? And we can see that the neckline has been broken to the bottom side, and at this point we would wait for the market to push up to this level, and at this level we might potentially look for selling opportunities. So can you guys see that this level over here is a very strong level? Because number one, it is, let me just go back to the weekly chart, or rather to the daily chart. Number one, it is the neckline of that huge W structure that I spoke about on the daily chart. Yes, we are on the daily chart, I can see. And number two, this trend line was broken at the very same area, right? Number three, I'm just going to head back to the H4 chart again. On the H4 chart, we have another M structure, which has a neckline at that point. So this level is a very strong level of resistance, and should price come back to this level, at this level we will indeed look for potential selling opportunities, right? I hope what I'm saying makes sense. Having said that, guys, Currently, in as far as the H4 chart goes, I don't see any selling opportunities at this point in time, right? Yeah, so that is it in as far as my analysis goes, and peace out everybody.